Yep. You already know what time it is, man. It's your girl, POC. It's Friday, so you already know how I'm coming. Tons of energy, lots of love, man. Turn your radios up, spread the word, spread the message. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Revive is alive because of you. Yes, you. Click that link in my bio to take you directly where you need to be at Revive_POC. We're about to go live with our monthly special guest, IUIC Philadelphia. I'm really excited to be speaking with them. As always, we're going to be dropping some news, some information. We're going to be educating and re-educating. We're going to be making sure that we're talking about the topics and answering the questions that you also have as well. So definitely make sure you hit us up right now. We are on Instagram Live. We are also simultaneously broadcasting live on 98.5 WJYN every Friday. You can definitely hear my voice live on 98.5. So definitely check us out. Make sure you guys spread the word, spread the message that Revive is Alive 365. So when you go to our website, we need to stay alive. And in order to do that, we need y'all to click that donation tab in order to keep us alive for the next 365 days. But yes, man, today we're going to be talking with IUIC Philadelphia. Like I said, we're going to be keeping this monthly special guest going. Your mercy contact number is 202-750-9112. Once again, the number is 202-750-9112. Let's make sure we get them on the line. All right, we in there.
Hey,
How you
shalom. Hey, I did it today.
Yes, you are, man. It's a Friday. It's a good Friday. I'm feeling good. The weather is feeling nice outside. How you feeling before we get started? How's everything with you?
I got my life. I got green tea. And I got God. I'm feeling
green
good.
Tea. Why you say green tea? Tell us why green tea is so special to you, if you don't mind sharing.
Coffee, I drink green tea. Keep my energies up.
Okay, I'm with you on that, man. And tell the people, a little bit about IUIC, which I got going on, how people can find more information before we get into the word of the day.
Yes. Thank you very much for having us on the show once again. Israel United Christ was started by Bishop Daniel in 2003. Like I said, we're a non-hate organization. We keep the laws of God. All right. In addition, so-called Blacks and Hispanics scattered throughout the diaspora in the Western Hemisphere as well as the Eastern Hemisphere are the biblical Israelites according to the Bible.
Yes. And how can people find more information about you?
You can find out about it.
He's paused, but he's still with us. For those who's tuning in, once again, we're joined with IUIC Philadelphia. They were telling us a little bit more about how you can find them on Instagram and things of that nature and their website. I think he is frozen. If you guys can still hear me, can you let me know if you can still hear me? There we go. I see him coming back into the chat right now. Shout out to everybody who's tuning in on 98.5 on the radio.
Hey, shalom. I got kicked off.
Yes. Okay. You're back, though. You're back. Yes. I appreciate it.
Yes. To answer the last question, you can reach out to us at www.israelunite.org. That's our website, www.israelunite.org. If you want to personally email us, you can email us at iuic.philadelphia@israelunite.org.
Yes. So we're going to get into it as we always get into it, starting with our word of the day. So word of the day is reparations. What's your thoughts on that?
So what are my thoughts on that? Going into pretty much the return of a people back to the original homeland. Mm-hmm. And what I think about that is Blacks, those in the Western Hemisphere, those that were subjugated to slavery on the West Indian Islands, so-called Jamaicans, even Haitians, Latinos, we don't have a homeland. We don't have a place of dwelling. We were brought to this country as slaves. So this is what I think about that. If I could read real quick, Deuteronomy chapter 30. Mm-hmm. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. It says, "And it shall come to pass, when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee." So Black people have experienced the blessings for only 80 years under King David as well as King Solomon. So now we're living in the curses of breaking God's laws, chattel slavery, being led in slave ships and shackles and chains, our women being raped, our sons and daughters being taken away from us, mass incarceration, police brutality. Those are the curses that God placed upon us for breaking his commandments. So it says the blessings and the curse. And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God have driven thee. So God says we're going to call the curses to mind amongst all the nations where God driven us. If you look at the transatlantic slave trade, we're the only race of people that was scattered throughout the whole earth. What is called the Biafra or the African diaspora is actually the Israelite diaspora. We were scattered through Puerto Rico, Mexico, North, Central, South America, China, Japan, India, Europe. We're the only race of people that fits the curses of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
We're scattered throughout all the nations of the earth, the Bible says. Verse 2, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. If any of thy be driven out to the utmost parts of the heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee.
So let me ask
Verse 5.
you a question too. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to ask you a quick question, right? And the reason why I made that the word of the day is because last month we were talking about, going into Black History Month, which is February. And I wanted to ask that because I was sitting on a panel discussion this past Sunday, and one of the topics was, or the prompt, I should say, for the panel discussion was the state of Black culture, right? And I threw out there, pretty much saying that, we as Black Americans, we created our culture. We shifted our culture based on experiences and exposure because of what you just, acknowledged, pretty much saying we don't necessarily know exactly where we come from because we were stripped of our native land. So when it comes down to just how the word of the day, in an example of today, as far as the state of Black culture, what are your thoughts on that?
And the state of Black culture, I was going to get one more verse, and then it's kind of going to sum it up. In verse 5, and the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. So in terms of the state of Black culture, as we just read down from the top of the verse to verse 6 or verse 5, the reason why Black culture doesn't exist in the countries that we were enslaved under is because God put the curses upon us to take away our culture. The only culture that we have relates back to the Bible as the Israelites, us keeping the law, statutes, commandments. If you don't have a land, you don't have a culture. Your culture is based upon the land and the laws that you establish within our lands as part of your records. So that's how we're going to get back to the state of our Black culture or Israelite culture, is by us taking heed to the laws of God, keeping the commandments, civil laws, moral laws, dietary laws, ceremonial laws, and having our own land.
So do we as Black Americans, right? Because we just what we're living in right now, right? The society that we're amongst right now. So as Black Americans, right? How do we, at a time like this, especially in a month like this, where it's curated around Black history, let me ask you this question. This is going into our discussion a little bit. What Black history facts do you have, that you can share as far as creating culture for us here in Black America?
What Black, in terms of, repeat that again. What Black history facts do we have?
What being a Black in America, you know what I mean? Like, that shapes our culture by being Black in America. Like, do you feel like what we have done as Black Americans, our pioneers, our ancestors, such as like Sojourner Truth, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, like all of these amazing people, and there's so many different more. I'm just naming select few. Do you feel like these Black history facts, are shaping our culture as Black Americans?
Yes. Our culture is shaped, like I said, anytime you think about Black history or anybody's history, you go to Chinese history, they have a rich culture in terms of their ancestors ruling the empire that they built. The Greeks, so-called Greeks, like I said, you go back into their culture, their customs, and their history, they go back into what they built, American culture. So when you go back to Black culture, you really don't go that far back other than slavery. Our culture has been shaped around the curses of God, meaning our culture has been shaped around slavery, and that's it. Suffering, pain. If you read in the book of Daniel chapter, Daniel chapter, give me 1 second, 9 verse 11, I believe. 11. Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judge us, by bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven hath not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem. So nobody has suffered what we have suffered in Black history or Black culture. That's why when you read about Black culture, the only culture you read about is slavery or the civil rights movement. We don't have a rich culture or a culture of perseverance in terms of any type of restitution or any type of joy or freedom.
And I'm glad that you made those points, because I referenced that, right? And sometimes it's hard to have these difficult conversations because it is the truth. So when we talk about our culture as Black Americans, it does come from pain. It does come from, you know, the birth of a nation, pretty much, right? So that's the reason why I asked those questions. So I want to get a little bit into our conversation today. Thank you for breaking down the word of the day in your own opinion. I appreciate you always. For those who are just tapping in, once again, we are live right now on 98.5 WJYN. Introduce yourself again for the people who are just now getting to know your voice again, your face, and everything we're doing here monthly.
Thank you once again for having us on. Like I said, my name is Captain Joel, is United in Christ.
Yes, we appreciate you, Captain. So my first question to get the conversation started today is something that actually was a question last month off of Twitter, but we were so engaged in our conversation, I didn't get a chance to get to it. And it says, and I want to start with it today because I love, you know, our engagement as far as community engagement and things like that. And the question says, has the tribulation begun?
Has the tribulation begun? Yes, it has begun. The tribulation in terms of Jacob.
And can you explain that too? Because a lot of people, you know, won't necessarily know exactly what that means. And that's probably a question from someone who's been studying with you or around you for sure.
Yeah.
Or probably just, you know, aware. Because I don't know where they got the question from.
Yes. Now, in terms of the tribulation, Jacob's trouble, the Bible talks about. And when we are in tribulations in the last days, the tribulation is going to the suffering in an environment that has been forced in America, what you see today in terms of the famine, you see in terms of the pestilence and the different diseases that we experience, such as COVID-19. Now you see an environmental pain or environmental exposure to the chemicals with the train derailments. So there's many different plots and ploys that has been orchestrated in order to bring the downfall or bring this country to its knees. Now, I'm going to read in Revelations, no, actually Jeremiah. There's ways that God afflicts and brings pain. Well, let me see real quick. I think it's Jeremiah. I'll start at Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6, start at verse 8. Okay, verse 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. So it says the pale horse. So the one that's the pale horse is going into the different ruling Edomite nations. So Esau is the so-called white man. Power was given to him, meaning death and hell. Meaning he was given power to rule over the nations as well as power to kill. And it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. And the fourth part is going to America. To kill with the sword and with hunger, and with death and the beasts of the earth. The beast of the earth is going to zoonosis in terms of the splitting of the DNA with the so-called coronavirus. So that's going into your diseases, your pestilences. You go into famine. The hunger, it says, with the sword and with hunger, meaning they have power to generate or to create a man-made famine. You see it that they're using the train derailments to poison and pollute the atmosphere, pollute the water, to pollute the fish. You see a lot of fish dying. You see a lot of animals dying because of the chemical pollution in Ohio. And just not only Ohio alone, but various other countries or states that they're not talking about. So the tribulation is going to the four judgments that God passed through every single captivity. The first judgment always goes to famine. After famine, you have pestilence, meaning diseases. You have the sword, meaning war. And then you have the beast. And the beast we're experiencing is going to the diseases.
I appreciate that breakdown. I appreciate the question as well. So, like I said, if you have any questions during our discussion, anything that you want us to talk about, topics, please bring them up, drop them in the chat. This is now the time to do so. So I want to get into a question that I wanted to ask you specifically. And my question is, what's the difference between sacrifice and obedience? And how should we find a balance between the both?
Very good question. So it's actually one of the same if you look at it. To sacrifice is to give up something that you love or you like or want to do. Obedience is to discipline yourself from the things that you want or you love or you like to do. So I look at the sacrifice as well as obedience as one of the same thing. If you read Romans chapter 12, verse 1, it states, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. So to present your bodies as a living sacrifice is the same thing as obedience, or to discipline your body, discipline your thoughts to give into your fleshly temptations or your lusts, or just your different pleasures that you like. Just for example, I might want to eat this cake, but I know I'm trying to lose weight. So I'm going to sacrifice my pleasures or my desires to eat that cake in order to what? Discipline my body. So obedience as well as sacrifice is one of the same thing.
So how can you find like a balance within it? You know what I mean? Like for someone who feels as though they don't see it as one and the same. You know, they feel like they're lacking in obedience or they're lacking in the sacrifice category.
So how do you find a balance?
Yes.
It's something that's constant. It takes time. It's like it says, as you begin to grow and learn, and as your faith grows, and as well as your purpose, you come into yourself and your purpose, you learn to sacrifice certain things in order to, and you know that, okay, I have to sacrifice in order to get to this point. And the reason why, like I said, a lot of people don't sacrifice their, whatever it is that they're looking to obtain, is because they don't have a purpose.
Why do you say that? That's an interesting fact. Why do you say that?
Think about it. What's the purpose? Like I said, why do you lose weight? Or why do you want to lose weight? Some people want to lose it for health reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to lose it for your family. That's a sacrifice. So because, like I said, and before, some people think that, okay, you know, I'm never going to eat. Like, for example, I was watching the show Bears Grill Island. It's a good show. Now, you have this guy, he was overweight and he was shiftless. He was lazy. He didn't really have a purpose until, I'm just using this as an example, he met this woman. She was at a higher level than he was. So he understood that he had to sacrifice that individual that he was at the time period in order to be with a sister like that. Mm-hmm. So that required discipline. He had to go to the gym. He had to get a better job. He had to sacrifice his laziness and be obedient, disciplined, in order to get what he wanted.
So does one outweigh the other? Does one have more value to create the other, to even spark a unite, you know, forcing you to make like, all right, let me be more disciplined, or, you know, let me be more sacrificial on the things that I want to do based on, you know, the things that are presenting me. So do you think it's like optimistic as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, in order to sacrifice something, you got to have a reason to sacrifice it for. Mm-hmm. So what is your why? Why do you want to why do you want to sacrifice? So I'll say sacrifice comes first, then the obedience comes afterward, because you have to have a why you're willing to sacrifice something in order to obtain it. In order to sacrifice that, you have to have the obedience in order to obtain it.
Okay, I appreciate that. So I wanted to get into that question because I wanted to know your opinion.
Yes.
I want to get into some news as well that broke this week. Mm-hmm. And it was something that was really interesting to me, and I wanted to bring it up. So this week there was breaking news between Palestine and Israel. A raid broke out in the West Bank that led to heavy warfare. How does this relate to prophecy, and how does physical warfare correlate with spiritual warfare?
So repeat it one more time. Sorry.
So I'm not sure if you knew, but a raid broke out in the West Bank that created, you know, some heavy warfare between Palestine and Israel earlier this week. So I was asking, how does this relate to the prophecy, and how does physical warfare correlate with spiritual warfare? Last month that we talked about, you know, I actually specifically, do you feel like we're in a spiritual warfare? So we talked a little bit about that. So I wanted to ask, based on what's happening right now, like, how does that correlate?
So if you look at it, what we're seeing now is the chess pieces. God is making moves little by little and preparing for the final battle. In order to get to the final battle of World War III, what people call Armageddon, that has sorry,
I had to sneeze. I apologize.
All right. So in order to get to that, like I said, to get to the final battle, or what people could know as Armageddon, the Third World War, God set up certain pieces. So Russia and Ukraine was just the beginning of the pieces, but the war that's really going to start and end all wars is going to between the conflict between Palestine or the Arabs as well as Israel. If you look at Second Ezra and Apocrypha, chapter 15, verse 30. It states, also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. So the Carmanians is going to the Iranians.
Mm-hmm.
So the Carmanians is the ancient Iranians. Or it's the Iranians today. That was the ancient name back then. It says, also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come, and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of Assyria. So now Ezra says shall waste a portion of the land of Assyria. Assyria back during that time period was one of the ruling powers that subjugated the land of Israel and led our people into captivity. Mm-hmm. So Iran is going to be part of the war. And it says verse 31, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nations. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Sorry, verse 29. So the dragons go to verse 29, excuse me. Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. So the beginning of the war that's going to start.
Break that down for us.
Yes. So verse 29. I'll start at verse 20. 28. Behold, in horrible vision, in appearance thereof from the east. So this is going to the eastern hemisphere. Mm-hmm. Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots. So when the Bible says the nations of the dragons of Arabia, you have something what is called the Muslim or the Arab. What is it? The United Arab. The Arab is excuse me. The United Arab Emirates, something like that, I believe. Okay. So you have the Muslim Brotherhood, because it's going to escalate. Eventually, it's going to escalate to the point that you have the conflict that's occurring in Israel and Palestine. Is going to escalate to the point that the Arabs are going to get involved. Mm-hmm. So that's what the Bible says. Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out.
So how does that affect us, right? So
yes.
If they do get involved, how does that affect us?
Because that's going to lead to the third war.
And that will be more of a physical warfare.
Yes. And that's going to draw out America. So
what do you mean by
conflict, that? So the conflict between Israel and Palestine is going to involve the Muslim Brotherhood, and it's going to unite all Arabs together. Iran's going to get involved, and all the other countries are going to get involved, and then America is going to have to get involved, because I said it last week. Israel and America is lying in bed with each other. America has an obligation. If you look at the American flag, or when you look at some of the State of the Unions, as the president addresses the nations, you always see two flags, which is the American flag as well as the Israeli flags. So you have Big Brother.
Why do you say, or let me ask you this specific question. Why do you say America and Israel being in alliance together? Why is that important to us?
Well, it's important to us to understand, because those two countries, America and Israel, are in alliance because those are the two countries, or those are the two nations that appropriated our culture. America took on the title of Christians, and it took the promised land that belonged to the North American Indians, the tribe of Gad. Israel took on the culture of the Jews, appropriated our culture, the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So they took those two countries as their own. So in order to keep up the lie, both of them have to be in agreement with each other and protect each other. But it's Israel keeping up the lie, and then the conflict that Israel has along with the Arabs is going to be the one that's going to draw America out into going to the Third World War.
So who would defend this, though? Like in a space of, like, let's say if it does go into war, who defends, the people as far as Americans in Israel? Like who goes to war with them, I would say, not against them.
So who goes to war? This is Joel chapter 3, verse 1. Give me 1 second. Let me get it. So Joel 3, verse 1. For behold, in those days and at that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations. So the war is going to bring out not only America, but it's going to bring out all nations. So the Valley of Jehoshaphat, we're going to notice or realize, is in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, in the land of Israel, where the conflict is going to occur. So it says, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Once again, the Valley of Jehoshaphat is the final decision where God's going to judge all nations. He's going to bring all nations that's warring. He's going to bring Russia, Ukraine. He's going to bring China. He's going to bring Iran. He's going to bring India. All your global superpowers are going to be gathered into the Middle East.
So let me ask you this question, right? If you can update us on, what's going on with the Israeli diplomat that was removed from the African Union Summit. What does that mean for us, and what does that mean for Africa?
Well,
and how is that correlated to what we were just talking about? Because what you were talking about when you mentioned everyone, you skipped over Africa. So that's why I want to say.
Wait, repeat that one more time. Sorry.
When you mentioned, all of these major powerful countries, you skipped over Africa, even though Africa is a continent, but you skipped over Africa. So I wanted to ask,
because Africa doesn't have nuclear armed warheads.
Okay.
We're talking about world superpower that has the capability to be able to decimate a country. And America doesn't respect Africa. America doesn't respect black continents. And not only America, China, as well as Russia. China, I would say America, as well as France. Well, they look at
the Israelis diplomats, actually was removed from the African Union Summit. Like, Africa kicked them out.
Yeah, and like I said, Africa is starting to wake up in terms of unifying and seeing the plot that only thing people want, or these different superpowers want from Africa, is the resources. So Africa's now started to wake up to realizing that they're being used. They have been used since the beginning of colonization. But the difference is Africa doesn't have the resources in order to be a world global superpower. In terms of militarily, Africa gets their arms or the weapons from who? From America or these European superpowers. And they don't have nuclear capability. We're talking about world domination. We're talking about countries that had nuclear capability. That's power. So Africa really is not going to be too much of a player in the final war. And a big majority of Africa, like I said, is inhabited by Shem. A lot of Israelites live in that land.
So do you think by America and Israel being an alliance, does that make them a superpower or a super PAC amongst everyone else?
I would say what makes them it does, like I said, it does, because Israel, like I said, the so-called Jewish people own a lot of the monetary resources. They own the banks, they own the corporations globally. They control the finances. And America controls the resources in terms of import as well as export. So the two of those nations has what is called a global net over the whole world. So yes, I would say it does give an advantage. Both of them work coincide with each other. But also, it's going to be the decimation. If I could read real quick, Zechariah chapter 14, verse 2. I'll say Zechariah 14, verse 1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of the battle. So Israel, there's going to be a battle in that land. They're going to be completely
starting to happen right now, honestly.
Yes, it is. And like I said, we're
right
seeing the start of it between the Israeli as well as the Palestinian conflict.
So let me ask you this. What does this have to do specifically? Because I know that you brought up the Russia-Ukraine situation. What does this have, like, how is it going to come together across the borders, as far as the war, getting to each country, if that makes sense. Like how do you foresee that flourishing as far as them getting to each other's borders? Because of course between Russia and Ukraine it was right there, but how can a Russia get to Israel and an Israel get to a Russia or something like that? Like how do you think that's possible? And the only reason I'm asking is because and not to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but those balloons really did happen. They really did fly over, certain states here in America, and we can't deny that that wasn't something that didn't happen. So, how do you foresee, these borders actually being crossed?
Nuclear missiles.
Okay. Just simple like that. Everybody just gonna start launching stuff across borders.
And Isaiah talks about this. This war is going to be different for all the other wars. If you notice the Russian comments, I'm not sure, like you say, you look at the news concerning Russia. Russia's threatening to shoot the nuclear missiles. They threatened America multiple times. Mm-hmm. Not only America, Russia threatened Ukraine multiple times. This war that we're looking at is not going to be your typical war where people go in and fight each other.
Yeah,
we're talking about nuclear capability. Mm-hmm. They're looking to wipe off nations.
So you think that's possible? You really think that's possible? Like they're going to just start sending missiles in the sky? That's
what the Bible talks about. Let me get Isaiah chapter 9.
And do you think that that's why they started with like the whole balloon stuff?
Well, like I said, I'm not looking too deep into the balloon thing because, like I said, America, they put a lot of things out in order to create internal conflict with other countries. Okay. Now, whether it's true or not, China sent the balloon. Think about it. China doesn't have to send a balloon as a spy balloon. You have something called technology. Yeah. China made a lot of the chips. You look at the Huawei company, they made the chips that go into the cars. They can use that chip to spy. So that balloon, I'm not buying that balloon. That's just a distraction for America to bring up some type of conflict or make it seem that there's internal issues. The biggest issue that America has is the money, or I'll say China, Russia, Brazil, India, Saudi Arabia, creating their own monetary system and backing their dollar by gold. It's something called BRICS. Yeah. So they created something like their own European Union. They established their own monetary government outside of America. America doesn't like that. Yeah. Libya tried to do that under Gaddafi when he tried to create a monetary system and have their money backed up by gold only for African nations. You had so anytime you take yourself off of America's dollar and you take yourself and you take away from America's monetary system, guess what? That's war. Check this out. Let me read real quick Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5, concerning the battle, when I said it's going to be by nuclear war. It's not going to be.
We got about 5 minutes, so this is your closing.
Okay, yes. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. I'll say it again. He says, but this war shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What has the capability to burn people and fuel a fire? That's talking about nuclear capability. If I could read it real quick because we have 5 minutes, I'm going to show you nuclear warheads in the Bible. That's going to be with burning and fuels of fire. If you go to Job chapter 24, I'm telling you, this Bible is real.
And let me ask you this. This is just an opinion. Everyone who's listening, this is just an opinion. We're just talking at this time. So I want to ask you, as far as starting it, who do you think is going to have the kahunas to actually start it if it actually comes down to it?
Obadiah says there's going to be an ambassador. That's going to gather all nations together against America. So we don't know as of yet what country is going to be the one that says, let's rise up against America and battle. But there is the country that's going to rise up. There's going to be one individual, according to the book of Obadiah. Now, real quick, this is Job chapter 20, I'll start at verse 23. Because this world, the final world war, is going to be with nuclear warheads. Is that in the Bible? Let's read it. Job chapter 20, verse 23. Verse 22. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in his straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. So every hand shall come upon America and Israel. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath and shall reign Eden. So when America and Israel says peace and safety, when they fill their belly, when it's filled economically, when it's filled with the resources of the country, when it's filled with peace and safety, God said he's going to rain upon them. Verse 24, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. So God says these countries are going to flee from the iron weapon, and a bow of steel shall strike them through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. So out of the body is talking about these silos. The missiles come from the body, meaning come from the earth. It is drawn from the body. Yeah. The glittering sword cometh out of his gall. You ever heard of a glittering sword? There's
I would say
thing as a sword that glitters. If you look at the shape of the sword, it has a pointy head and it has an arrow at the bottom. At the bottom, it's the shape of a nuclear missile. So Job is describing his vision, glittering sword. A mist glittering because of why? The fire that comes at the bottom of it. It says it is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yeah. The glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. So that's nuclear missiles in the Bible. So this war is not going to be like any other war. It's going to be like thermonuclear missile. And all countries destroy each other.
And I always ask the deacon captain, how do we prepare for something like this? And his favorite thing to reply with is, you got to repent. You know what I mean? You got to pay, you got to pray, you got to repent. So I want to ask you the same question, just to get your opinions on it as far as just preparing for something like this. What are your thoughts?
Psalms 91 verse 4. He shall with his feathers. Verse 3. It says, surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. The truth is going to the laws of God. It's going to be our protection. Verse 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come unto thee. Only with thy eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. So keeping God's commandments is going to be the only thing that protects us. You can't hide in a bunker. You can't hide in a rock. You can't hide in your basement. Nobody's going to be able to hide from this third war. God is going to make sure everybody feels it. The only people that's going to be protected are the Israelites that keep God's commandments.
I appreciate you dropping that knowledge. Thank you for always coming through each and every month. Like I said, this is something that we want to continue with IUIC Philadelphia to make sure we're educating and re-educating, and also giving a platform to people who are really talking to the people out in the community. And I want to ask you this question, Captain, before I let you go, right? Just to address some things, right? It's Black History Month. People are in the spirit, and I feel like we should be supporting, just IUIC all over, because IUIC is a nationwide thing. So when we see you all, outside, I don't want to call it like on the corners and things like that, because you guys are doing more than just being in the corner. But, when you are outside and you're doing your block by block, canvassing and things like that, how can we address the negativity around it? Like, oh, they're just being loud, or they're just making noise, they just adding to, the combustion that's just going around in these inner cities, because you typically see you all in inner city communities. So how can we address the negativity? Like, how can we get more Black Americans to really see the truth, and even if they don't necessarily agree with it, they don't feel it, just so they can keep their opinions about it, but address it not necessarily always in a negative way?
So the one thing Black America could do, like I said, and the way we could address it, is by our people, rather than judging based upon what they see on the news or society, because remember, this propaganda, that's a propaganda machine that pushes a negative image of us, or just Black people in general. Just understand the history behind Black America and how they push a negative connotation based upon our people. Understand, listen, and just ask questions, acquire, and pass our literature around, pass out our information, show the many good things, like I said, our community cleanups, us going to the various protests. So look into us. Actually acquiring what we're talking about. That's the question.
I appreciate that, and I really feel like the back whatever happened, you know, in 2022 with the whole Kyrie situation, it drew a lot of attention to just the nationwide organization, right? And it, if you, and I know you all are not probably reading into some of the comments and things that people make, but it's like it really drew some negative comments, you know, and out of a positive situation where I felt like a group of people stepped up to try to help a brother out. You know what I mean? So I really want to say, you said what?
Black people are crabs in a barrel. Listen, even the help came, they still rejected. So they don't even know what help looked like because, like I said, we've been beaten down for so many years. So at the end of the day, like I said, there's nothing we really could do. They killed Christ, they killed Peter, they killed Paul. So that negative image is always going to be placed upon us as long as we don't rule.
I appreciate that. And I'm gonna say that's where we're gonna go with the next month. I'm gonna go in there with that. I'm gonna lead in with that topic of help and how we can be of service to each other and how we can reimagine help or helping hand. You know, how can we look at a helping hand in a different way? Let's go with that topic.
And we just want people to take their time to research us and don't look at the negative comments or the narrative that they're trying to push in the media. Understand the history of this country and how they have put down Black people in general, and actually acquire and it's do research.
I appreciate you, Captain, man. Again, before I let you go, thank you always for, you know, coming with your opinion, talking your truth. It is definitely needed and necessary, especially in a city like Philadelphia. Can you tell people again how they can find you, stay locked, social media, website, all the good things, and also to subscribe to the YouTube channel because you all have a lot going on the channel.
Yes. So thank you once again for having us. If you guys want to reach out to us, you can reach out personally to IUIC.Philadelphia@IsraelUnite.org. Once again, IUIC.Philadelphia@IsraelUnite.org. You can also send us an Instagram message. If you want to look at us, look into more information, what we're doing, our community outreach, or even the information that we're putting out there, you can go to our website, www.IsraelUnite.org. www.IsraelUnite.org.
No doubt.
Also, subscribe to our TV, IUIC.tv.
Yes. We appreciate you. Thank you. And I look forward to speaking with you next month.
Yes. Looking forward as well. Thank you very much.
No doubt. Peace.
Right.
Yeah.